because it shows that you are inflexible. You are not open to other points of view, other types of opinion. You are stubborn.
We even have an expression we could use. If you're wanting to be even more emphatic, you can say someone is stubborn as a mule. A mule is an animal I think it's a cross between a horse and a donkey. And apparently these are very stubborn animals. If they don't want to move, for example, it's very difficult to get them to move, right? They're just stubborn. And then people who are watching on YouTube, they saw both of us were laughing when he says sitting on your butt. What does that mean if someone's sitting on their butt?
Literally, your butt is your behind, right? And sitting on your butt is like a lazy person. Eh? You're just sitting on your butt, like not doing anything, like sitting down and maybe watching TV all day long, yeah? Or not doing much with your life, just sitting on your butt. It's a fun expression.
And I really like, too, the way that he says this, because as often happens, right, when we have these words ending in ing, we'll drop the G. So he just said sitting on, and he reduces, again, the your, like we saw before. We reduce you, we also reduce your. So he said sitting on your butt, sitting on your butt. And something here too that I thought I would quickly point out is a lot of learners, I think because, for example, in Spanish, you don't have a word that you'd use that's different between butt and ass, for example. And so I hear some learners will use the word ass, but ass is actually a curse word in English, right? So ass you can use if you're with, people who you have a good relationship with and everything. But in other cases, butt is a softer word, we could say, right?
That reminds me of maybe a previous episode we did where you mentioned this, right, Ethan? Also those cultural insights, like, for example, cursing too lightly, yeah? Like, be careful with the word ass, yeah? Don't use it so lightly, yeah?
And just like in ending the scene, Ron says, I'll show you. What does that mean?
So when somebody challenges you or dares you to do something and you accept that challenge, you can say, oh yeah, you think I cannot do this? I'll show you. Watch me. So it's a great phrase to accept the challenge and do it. And watching the scene is really nice because Ron, he says, oh yeah, I'll show you. And then he does climb up the hill. Yeah.
Despite difficulty, right? It's actually, he's quite resilient. In that case, we could circle back.
There you go. Yeah. Beautiful.
The last thing I took note of is that Alexander says, you're going to live a long time. But he says this really quickly. People might have noticed this. He says, you're going to live a long time. So he reduces the your to your, and going to, of course, becomes gonna. The live and a becomes schwa, and they link together. So live a long time. You're going to live a long time.
You're going to live. You're going to live a long time.
Nice.
So Ethan, okay, this is all nice and beautiful. Yeah, get in touch with your adventurous side, seek out adventure. But does that mean that now all of us have to go into the woods or the wilderness, as you said earlier, and build our cabins there, not talk to anybody anymore in order to be adventurous?
I mean, that might be right for some people who are listening or watching. Maybe that's what you need right now. But I think there's so many different kinds of adventure, right? For example, having a kid is a huge new adventure in your life. Even, a few years ago, I got a dog. I think I underestimated the adventure that getting a puppy is as well, So bringing a new family member in, that's a huge adventure. Starting a business, for example, maybe you've been, in a job, you're stuck in a rut, you just aren't happy with your job. You have this idea for something that you're really passionate about and you'd love to go do it. That would be a huge adventure, right? Or even just sometimes it doesn't have to be something huge, but learning a new language or learning to play guitar or another instrument that you've always wanted to learn, that can be an adventure. So I think it depends where you are in your life, maybe how resilient you are or how much of a tolerance that you have for doing something new or challenging and so on. So you can always start with something small, but I think that, asking yourself, what am I doing today to step outside of my comfort zone in some way? That could be doing a new workout. It could be, we talked a few episodes ago about, making the decision to take the stairs instead of the elevator. That can be, for some people, stepping outside of their comfort zone. It can be an adventure. So I think it really just depends. Start where you're at, right?
That's amazing. So it's about challenging your assumptions, getting out of your comfort zone, trying new things, being open to new experiences, always learning new things. So yeah, That's what we mean by being adventurous. It can take the more literal sense of the word, literally. Yeah, if maybe that's what you need, like Ethan said. Or maybe it's just about that. Yeah, like, experimenting new things, learning new things.
Yeah, step outside of your comfort zone, big or small. All right, so let's jump into today's big challenge. So for today's big challenge, actually, before we even get into the big challenge, in preparing for this, Thiago, you had found a really nice quote from David Brooks, who's actually a journalist from the New York Times. I think most people are familiar with that publication, and a writer. So do you want to share that?
Yeah, it was really cool because, in this article, he's talking about the difference between your resume virtues and your eulogy virtues. Just to contextualize here, your resume is your curriculum, your CV. Yeah, when you apply for a job, you have that document, that piece of paper with your background, work background, educational background. That's your resume. So he calls the resume virtues and the eulogy virtues. Eulogy is usually a speech that is given when somebody passes away or dies. Yeah, there's usually somebody there speaking some nice words about that person who has just passed away. That's your eulogy. Now, it's really cool because, he compares the difference here. Yeah, he explains the difference. And he says that we should focus more in life on developing our eulogy virtues instead of resume virtues. So let me read here the paragraph where he defines that. So here it is. The resume virtues are the ones you list on your resume, the skills that you bring to the job market and that contribute to external success. The eulogy virtues are deeper. They're the virtues that get talked about at your funeral, the ones that exist at the core of your being. That's the word. There's that word again, right, Ethan? Core. At the core of your being. Whether you are kind, brave, honest, or faithful. What kind of relationships you formed.
He uses the word virtues here, but virtues, it's kind of like a synonym, right, for values. So it's basically the things, the resume values. I think of those as kind of like the values that you say you have, but then when push comes to shove, we'd say when you're actually put to the test to exhibit that value in some way, you don't, you just tell people this is something I value, but you don't actually walk the talk with it. So for example, if someone says, oh yes, I'm very adventurous, but then you can never get them to try anything new. You say, oh, let's go out for sushi. And they're like, no, let's just have, maybe some pasta or something more comfortable or something. It's like, don't you say you're trying to be more adventurous? Let's go out and have something new. Have some kimchi. So we wanted to jumping into today's big challenge. The big challenge that we want to give you all is something that's called the funeral exercise. And actually, I don't know if this originally comes from there, but the first place I heard of it was from The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, a book that is very near and dear to our hearts because it's chock full of important values for living a successful or just, a meaningful, happy life. And so he calls this the funeral exercise. And it's a way for you to develop or even identify what are these eulogy virtues that you have. And basically all you have to do, you can even close your eyes for a moment and imagine, you're walking into a church, you're walking into a place where a funeral is being held and, there's lots of people there, there's people crying. It's very somber sort of ambience, could say. And, you walk up to the casket. The casket is the place where the dead person is exhibited. Sometimes you have a funeral with an open casket, so that would be the case at this one. You walk up to the casket to show your respects to the person who's passed, and to your shock, you see that the person inside is you. So you're at your own funeral. And basically what you're doing in this exercise is you're imagining what are the conditions that are happening here? What do you want people to be saying at your funeral? What do you want people to remember about you? What kind of things will they say that you valued, or what were the contributions that you made to your community or to society? What will they say about your work? Who are even the people that you want there? And you can really get down into the details and think of each of these person, the relationship they had. What do you want each of these people to say about you? So you can go really deep with this. It's a really powerful reflection. I've done this myself. And, once you've done that, you'll have much clearer, what are the things actually when push comes to shove, like actually when I die, what are the things that I really value and I want people to remember me for? And, that gives you kind of a map is like, okay, I should actually be trying to cultivate these things more, be trying to exhibit them more, be trying to live a life more aligned with these values. We highly recommend you actually, sit down, grab a piece of paper and do this exercise. It's going to make a huge, possibly can make a huge impact on your life. And if you do, we would love it if you just shared something that you learned in doing this exercise with us. So you can, if you're just listening to the audio, you can write us at hello@reallifeglobal.com. We would love to receive your email. We're really looking forward to what kind of insights you have. And if you're watching on YouTube, then all you have to do is comment below. We read every comment that you guys send us. So again, we're really looking forward to hear what kind of impact this exercise has on y'all. And before we go, we just wanted to wrap up by sharing some comments that we were really grateful for in our last lesson. So I'll throw that over to you, Thiago.
All right, guys, so we have some wonderful comments here. For example, Vivian says, since I've discovered your podcast, I've started to live my English. Miguel says, you are all special in my life. Since I started to listen to your podcast, I've gained a lot of confidence in myself. Finally, Grace says, you guys have changed the way I learn English forever. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you so much. Yeah, these are wonderful comments.
We would love to see your comments too. If you want to throw them down in the comments, or again, you can email them to us and maybe we'll read it in one of our future episodes.
And Ethan, I actually have a question here from Abigail, another follower. She wants to send us a voice message, but she doesn't know how. How can she and other viewers and followers here send us a voice message?
It's so nice that Abigail actually asked about that. So if you want to send us a voice message, again, the best way would be by email to hello@reallifeglobal.com. You can record this on your computer. There's obviously many different softwares. A free one that you could use is Audacity if you don't have any voice recording software, or you can do it on your phone and then send it to us, whatever works for you. But yeah, we'd love to receive your voice note, your voice message. All right, guys. So we really hope that you do some reflection, a little bit about your values. Hopefully you got inspired today, even on some new values that you can cultivate or some values that you want to spend more time with. And we hope that this podcast, that we were able to have some sort of impact on you and inspire you to some sort of change. It's going to help you to live a better, happier life, or help you to help others. So thanks so much for joining us again. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Real Life English Podcast. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Dear listeners, sometimes all you need in life is a great adventure. So today we're going to be talking about moving to a country where you don't know the language, also taking a job opportunity abroad, and how all of that connects to your identity. Personally, I'm excited about today's episode because I know that you have been learning more about the country, the culture, and you have some cool things to share with us today. So I'm excited about that. But first of all, I would like to ask you, Cassie,